Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking what has to be one of the absolute wildest stories of digital disruption in modern politics. We're looking at a phenomenon that started out as an internet inside joke and morphed into a massive movement with over 26 million followers. And we're not just talking about online cloud here. We're talking about real-world political consequences, all unfolding in a matter of weeks. We're going to break down exactly how a completely satirical digital movement managed to bypass traditional political machinery and mobilize an entire generation.
To really wrap our heads around this, we have to look at the sheer scale of the numbers. It's a classic David versus Goliath scenario playing out in real time. You have these established political giants, the Congress Party sitting at 14.8 million followers, and the ruling BJP at 9.5 million. But then, towering over both of them at a staggering 26.3 million followers is the cockroach Jantar Party, or the CJP. Just put that into perspective for a second. A satirical page that was barely a week old managed to completely overtake the highly sophisticated, incredibly well-funded digital machinery of India's biggest political parties.
So, Section 1, the 26 million follower surge. Let's see how this actually happened.
Moving right along to Section 2, the remark that started it. Now, what's really interesting about this is how a single phrase can literally ignite a firestorm. During a Supreme Court hearing on May 15, 2026, the Chief Justice of India used the words cockroaches and parasites of society. Now, he did clarify later that he was specifically talking about individuals who are obtaining fraudulent degrees, not the youth as a whole. But you know how the internet works. Context often just evaporates. The remark was immediately taken as this massive derogatory jab at unemployed youth and activists. But instead of getting defensive or angry in the traditional sense, Gen Z did something totally unexpected. They actually embraced the insult. They wore it like a badge of honor. And that exact sentiment was crystallized the very next day by a 30-year-old PR graduate named Abhijeet Dipke. He went on X and posted a really simple, kind of absurd question. What if all cockroaches come together? He essentially took all of that simmering frustration among the youth and channeled it to birth the cockroach Jantar Party. It was this masterful stroke of digital irony, and it just instantly struck a chord with millions of young people who felt completely unseen by the current political establishment. And just look at the dizzying speed of this timeline. May 15th, we get the CJI's remark. Literally the next day, May 16th, the CJP digitally launches. Fast forward to late May, and they've already crossed 15 million followers, beating the BJP on Instagram. And then by July 25th, the Union Education Minister actually resigns. This wasn't some slow grassroots build that took years. This was an explosion. In just over 2 months, we went from an internet meme to a major political force capable of forcing high-level government accountability.
Which brings us to Section 3, Anatomy of Viral Satire.
So how did they actually pull this off? Well, the CJP defined itself with this incredibly sarcastic tagline, voice of the lazy and unemployed. By parading as a mock political party, they utilized AI-generated art and these highly satirical manifestos to build what was essentially a humorous safe space. Young people were using this heavy irony to express some very genuine, deep-seated anxieties about their futures, about unemployment, and about the state of the education system in general. Satire basically became the vehicle for real political dissent.
And this brilliantly illustrates the new political divide we're seeing. On one hand, you have traditional politics, formal rallies, official press releases, highly structured IT cells. And on the other hand, you have Gen Z politics, satirical Instagram reels, shared internet humor, and highly remixable memes. The traditional approach is super rigid and broadcast heavy, but the Gen Z approach, it's viral, it's highly participatory, and it's wrapped in thick layers of irony. The comparison of these metrics is absolutely mind-blowing. The ruling BJP's official Instagram account has over 18,000 posts, and it's backed by a massive boots-on-the-ground organization of over 18 crore registered members. Now look at the CJP. They had less than 60 total posts and a purely digital presence driven by 350,000 Google Forms signups. Yet, they achieved this astronomical reach. It's wild. It really proves that when you perfectly match digital mechanics, like reels and remix culture, with authentic teenage angst, the viral potential is practically limitless.
Moving into Section 4, memes spill onto streets.
The CJP didn't just stay online, though. They bridged the gap between the screen and the street by anchoring their satire in these mock but serious policy demands. They were demanding justice for over 150 exam paper leaks that had happened since 2014. They wanted to scrap CBSE rechecking fees. They pushed for massive systemic changes, like 50% women's reservation in Parliament, a 20-year ban for defecting MLAs, and even a ban on post-retirement seats for chief justices. So, while it was wrapped in a joke, these were highly tangible real-world issues taking aim at systemic corruption.
Now, we need to take a step back and pause here for a second, because the context behind these demands was incredibly serious. Following the leak of the NEET medical entrance exam paper, there were 12 reported student suicides in a span of just 37 days. This is the grounded, highly tragic reality that fueled the underlying anger of this entire movement. The satire wasn't just for laughs. It was a delivery mechanism for a profound sense of grief, frustration, and desperation felt by millions of students and their families. Naturally, this rapid growth and intense messaging triggered a massive government response. By June 21, 2026, the CJP's official account on X was withheld in India. The government used Section 69A of the Information Technology Act, citing national security concerns. Intelligence reports were essentially flagging the content as inflammatory and warning that it was gaining dangerous traction among the youth.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because this censorship attempt completely backfired. Almost instantly, the movement rebounded online with a brand new account and a defiant new battle cry: cockroaches never die. Trying to suppress the page only ended up validating their core narrative that the system was rigged against them, which just supercharged their reach. The resilience was unbelievable. And eventually, on July 7th, the Delhi High Court actually stepped in and ordered the account to be unblocked.
All right, Section 5, the offline political impact. This is where it all comes together. That pent-up digital energy rapidly transformed into physical reality. First, we saw massive student protests erupting at Jantar Mantar. Then, a huge wave of mainstream credibility hit when climate activist Sonam Wangchuk joined in with a 26-day hunger strike, famously calling himself an honorary cockroach. Soon after, the hashtag #MainBeCockroach was trending globally. It was drawing solidarity from everyone, from Bollywood celebrities to politicians across multiple opposition parties. And this all culminated in a massive, unified march toward Parliament. At this point, they were no longer just an Instagram page. They were a physical, undeniable force.
So the crucial point is, the breaking point had finally arrived. On July 25, 2026, amid this relentless mounting pressure from the cockroach protests, Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan officially resigned. Think about that. A movement that started with a sarcastic post by a 30-year-old PR graduate actually managed to force high-level political accountability, driven entirely by youth mobilization and a flawless digital strategy.
Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought to ponder. We've literally just watched established political parties with their massive traditional infrastructures get completely outmaneuvered by satire, memes, and genuine youth angst. When we look at the 26 million followers of the CJP and the resignation of a cabinet minister, we have to ask ourselves, does politics now begin with a 30-second Instagram reel? It's a fascinating look at the future of digital democracy and how internet culture can upend traditional power structures. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and remember, always keep questioning what you see on your feed.